Walters is back for another season as the official bar of the Nats Chat podcast. Walters is the best spot to go before and after home games, located at the southeast corner of Capitol and N Streets, right across the street from the ballpark.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
One ball, two strikes. Rooker windmills the bat around. Here comes the pitch. Swing and a miss. He blew it by him at 100 miles an hour. Cade Cavalli's first inning in the big leagues in 3 years is a 1-2-3 frame with 2 strikeouts. Welcome back, Cade Cavalli. He absolutely blew him away.
It means a lot. You know, it's been a long, almost 3 years now. It was just great being on that mound again. There's been a lot of lead up to it.
Kelly ready. He kicks and deals. Abrams, a looping line drive, shallow left. That's going to fall for a hit. Hassel's being waved in. The throw to the plate from Soderstrom on 2 bounces. Gets off the glove of the catcher. Hassel scores, and the Nationals win. They had a chance to throw him out, but Langoliers could not hold on to the throw. They're mobbing C.J. Abrams behind second base as the Nationals win in walk-off style 2-1.
And welcome to Nats Chat, along with MASNsports.com Nationals insider Mark Zuckerman, who is at Nationals Park. I'm Al Galdi, host of the Al Galdi podcast. A much-needed, dare I say, desperately needed feel-good night at Nationals Park on Wednesday night. The Nats snapped their 6-game losing streak, a 2-1 walk-off win over the Athletics at Nationals Park in Game 2 of a 3-game series. Shortstop C.J. Abrams had a walk-off RBI single, and starting pitcher Cade Cavalli, in making his first MLB regular season start in 3 years, did well. Nice to see that. Nice to say that. Nice to get that. The Nats in MLB's 2025 regular season improved to 45-68. That is the second worst record in the National League. The Athletics in this regular season fall to 50-66. That is the second worst record in the American League. You can find us on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. Coming up later in the show, an update on the Nats AAA affiliate, the Rochester Red Wings, from the voice of the Red Wings, Josh Whetzel, who'll tell us about the Red Wings' surging offense. Have we finally received confirmation on who the Nats' new closer is? We think so. We'll get to that. But Cade Cavalli, look, it's just one start, and it came against a bad team. But given his path to the start, given how things have been going for the Nats, Mark, you had to be pleased with what Cade Cavalli did on Wednesday evening.
Al, this was a legitimately good day for the Washington Nationals. And I don't say that lightly because there have not been very many of these. This was a legitimately good day. And it started with Cavalli. There was other stuff that went well. On top of that, the fact they won the game, the fact the bullpen came through the way they did. But it starts with Cavalli. And I would say that even if the final result of the day wasn't the 2-1 victory, I would still say that just based on what Cade Cavalli did in this game. As I wrote in my game story on MASNsports.com, anybody who came into this one believing they knew what they were going to see from Cavalli was either a hopeless dreamer or a doom and gloom soothsayer. Like, you did not know. There was no way for anybody to truly know what you were going to see from him in this one. And then he went out there and he put together about as perfect a scenario as you could draw up. The results were good, yes, but even more than that, the stuff was incredibly good. 3 pitches, elite. Fastball that hit 100 miles an hour. Curveball in the upper 80s. A sharp changeup that was 90-91. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that was Steven Strasburg stuff from him. Okay, there's a long way to go before he's pitching like Steven Strasburg, but the stuff was comparable to Steven Strasburg, and I don't know if there's anybody since Strasburg retired who we could say that about who's pitched for the Washington Nationals.
It was a reminder of Cade Cavalli's talent and upside, and it has been easy to lose sight of those things with all of his struggles over the last few years. But what he did on Wednesday evening was remind all of us, and I would say reminded himself too, of what he has the potential to be. There's a reason that he was taken with a first-round pick in the 2020 MLB draft by the Nats. This guy does have high-level stuff, and that stuff was on display in this game, and it was so good to see that. Now, it's a funny deal. If you hear, well, all he did was go 4 1/3 innings, you say, well, what's the big deal? Well, there's important context to this. So Cavalli's final line, 4 1/3 shutout innings with 6 strikeouts versus 1 walk. So you start with that, 6 strikeouts versus 1 walk over just 4 1/3 innings. Terrific. Mark mentioned the velocity. His average four-seam fastball velocity, a robust 97.3 miles per hour per Statcast. He gave up just 3 hits, all of which were singles. The reason that he only went 4 1/3 innings was that the pitch count was high, 88 pitches. But 2 things with that. A, he threw a lot of strikes, 59 strikes, just 29 balls. And B, the pitch count was high thanks in part to 2 throwing errors by the Nats. A throwing error by second baseman Paul DeJong in the top of the 3rd and a throwing error by shortstop C.J. Abrams in the top of the 4th. So even the biggest negative for Cavalli in this outing, the pitch count, was not entirely his fault. And I got to say, watching him during his post-game session with you guys, you didn't have to listen to a single word he said. The look on his face said it all. It was a look of relief. It was a look of joy, and I felt so good for the guy. You could tell this start meant so much to him and that he was very happy with how he did, and good for him. I'm happy for him.
We all are, everybody who's gotten to know him at all. And I was thinking this going into the game, probably never been a player in Nationals history that I felt like I knew as well as Cade Cavalli before he'd actually really done anything at the big league level, because he's been a constant presence, for the last 3+ years at spring training and even in the clubhouse during the season when he would stop in during his rehab. You really felt like you'd gotten to know him, and he's a friendly, talkative guy to begin with. So it felt a little more personal in some ways. And I think everybody felt good for him. And I think the key points to consider here, a couple things. One, as he said in that interview, he spent the last 3 years visualizing this, waiting for this moment. Now, that can go one of 2 ways. And I think this is why I said that you went into this not really knowing what you were going to get from him. When you've had that much time to anticipate coming back to the big leagues, that can go in the wrong direction if those emotions become too much for you. And what was so encouraging is that he channeled all that emotion in the right way. That first inning, 1, 2, 3, couple of strikeouts, 13 pitches. He hit 100 in that inning. That told you everything right there. He was in a good place physically and, more importantly, a good place mentally. So I thought that really set the tone. And that was the sigh of relief. Once he got through the first inning like that, you thought, okay, he's going to be fine. Now, the high pitch count, as you point out, I count 10 extra pitches as a result of those 2 errors, the subsequent at-bats that came after that. The other thing was a 13 pitch at bat against Gio Urshela. It was a great at bat by Urshela. Kept fouling him off. Cavalli got him, but it was on the 13th pitch. You take those 2 things out of it, and he's in a much better position, not just to go 5, but maybe even to go into the 6th as well. The only little bit of cold water I'm going to throw on this is that velocity did dip as the night went on. He was throwing 97, 98 and topping out at 100 in the first inning. And then you saw later on, it's more like 95, 96, 97. Now, there's nothing wrong with that at all. But I think this next step, he crossed the huge hurdle. He made it back. He's healthy, had success. The next step now is, can he sustain it and come back in 5 days, of course, and do it again? And can he, keep that velocity up and that effectiveness up through 5 and ideally through 6 innings? There's plenty of time for that to all work out. So that would be the only little thing that I would notice from this one, but I'm not going to worry too much about that because this night was about him being healthy, him being back out there, and looking great for the time that he was on the mound.
His only other MLB regular season start was his MLB regular season debut, August 26, 2022, a 7-3 Nats loss to the Cincinnati Reds at Nationals Park. And that outing did not go particularly well. Cavalli in that game, 7 runs in 4 1/3 innings. And as you may recall, and I remember talking to you about this, Cavalli in that game had obvious grip issues. He was constantly rubbing dirt on his throwing hand. He did not look entirely comfortable out there. And like I said, the results were not good. This was different. He was in command. He was obviously very effective. And hopefully it's the start of good things to come. Now, remember, he had that debut in August 2022, and then a few days later landed on the 15-day injured list with right shoulder inflammation, and basically nothing had gone well for him since then. But Wednesday evening was a very good development. How would you define his spot in the Nats rotation right now? Like, is he in it and that's it? He's there for the rest of the season? Do you think this is sort of a start-by-start thing that he's got to earn it? What do you think is the right way to frame his spot in the Nats rotation right now?
I think as long as he shows that he's still healthy, and as long as he doesn't run into any kind of innings limit that they may have on him for the season, I think he was at 70-something at AAA. If he were to make 10 starts the rest of the way at 5 innings apiece, that's another 50. So you're in the 120s. That might be a little more than they anticipated. So is it possible you get to the end of September and they say, okay, that's enough, we're going to shut you down? I could see that potentially happening. But barring some really poor performances, and I think they'd have to be really poor and multiple poor performances, I think he's here for the rest of the season. They don't have a lot of other options, as we've discussed. But more than that, this is now about finding out. They got over the first hurdle. He's back. He's healthy. He looked great. Now, do it every 5 days. Give him 2 months worth of material to work with as they now move ahead into next season. And what you saw is the reason why they've been so patient and waited this all out with him. He's going to turn 27 next week. He's not a kid at all. And he's actually got more than 2 years of big league service time because of all the time on the IL. He is a part of this for sure. As long as he's healthy, as long as he's not getting lit up out there, he is in this rotation the rest of the way. And you would think, knock on wood, that he's a part of the plan going into 2026.
Wednesday marked 1 month to the day of the Nationals firing Mike Rizzo and Davey Martinez. Nice to have a positive thing to discuss on that 1 month anniversary. Cade Cavalli doing well in this start against the Athletics. Good work by the Nats bullpen in this 2-1 walk-off win over the Athletics on Wednesday evening. 4 Nats relievers combined to allow 1 run in 4 2/3 innings. Connor Pilkington allowed 1 run in 1 1/3 innings. He, in the top of the 6th, gave up a leadoff first pitch homer by Tyler Soderstrom to right field for a 1-0 A's lead. But Cole Henry was really good. He faced 3 batters and got 3 outs, 2 of which were swinging strikeouts. Shinosuke Ogasawara, high leverage Shinosuke. He tossed 1 1/3 scoreless and hitless innings, and Jose A. Ferrer tossed a perfect top of the 9th. Now, the score was tied at 1 in the top of the 9th, and of course, nothing has been declared, but we've been discussing and we've been wondering, who is the Nats closer? Do you think we can now say that Ferrer is the Nats closer? We've had some clues here that have pointed us in that direction in recent days. He works the top of the 9th in this game. Can we go ahead and say that Ferrer is the successor to Kyle Finnegan as the Nats closer?
Yes, Miguel Cairo had a huge smile on his face as he declared to us post-game, "That's my closer right there. Now you get to see it. That was my closer right there." He had been waiting to use him. He finally got the right opportunity. And I'll tell you what, Ferrer looked really good in that role in a game that can go either way. In the 9th inning, tied 1-1. If the Nats don't score in the bottom of the 9th, I would have been very interested to see what would have happened after that. Would Ferrer go back out for the 10th? Would they go someone else? They'd kind of used up the quote-unquote, quality relievers that they have at this point. And how about Shinosuke Ogasawara, 7th and 8th inning guy? Who saw that one coming? And as Cairo put it, at this point, you got to find out who can handle it and who can't. And he felt like the matchups were good. There were a bunch of left-handed hitters coming up for the A's, and so he put him out there for that. He retired 4 out of 5 batters. Maybe the stuff plays better in shorter spurts like that. Maybe this was an anomaly and it's never going to happen again. But at least on this night, they got some high leverage quality outs late in a tie game from Shinosuke Ogasawara.
Yeah, Shinosuke Ogasawara, who basically does not strike out anybody as a high leverage guy. That's pretty funny, but he did a good job in this game. All credit to him. Hey, it's Al Galdi for Window Nation. Summer is starting to wind down in the DMV. Your air conditioning is working overtime, just trying to keep your house and you cool and comfortable. What can you do to make a difference? Well, you can replace your old or builder-grade windows with windows from Window Nation. Call 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com and tell Window Nation that you want the following deal that you're about to hear about here on the Nats Chat podcast. This month only, you can schedule a consult and get 50% off all window styles. Plus, you could even get your windows with 0 down, 0 payments, and 0 interest for 2 years. 866-90NATION or windownation.com. Tell Window Nation that Al Galdi from the Nats Chat podcast sent you. Window Nation windows are outstanding. They are custom made from high quality materials with precision fit. Bottom line, your home stays comfortable year round. Window Nation windows are even available in over 1,500 styles and colors. So you'll get the windows that you want to protect and beautify your home. With an A+ rating from the Better Business Bureau and over 3 million windows installed, you can trust Window Nation for quality and service. Hurry! This 50% off all windows sale ends August 31st. So don't miss out. Call 866-90NATION or visit windownation.com. Schedule your estimate and tell Window Nation that Al Galdi from the Nats Chat podcast sent you.
If you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on, Grainger understands that you go to great lengths and sometimes heights to ensure the power is always flowing, which is why you can count on Grainger for professional-grade products and next-day delivery, so you have everything you need to get the job done. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
NetCredit is here to say yes, because you're more than a credit score. Apply in minutes and get a decision as soon as the same day. Loans offered by NetCredit or lending partner banks and serviced by NetCredit. Application subject to review and approval. Learn more at netcredit.com/partners. NetCredit. Credit to the people.
Unaggressive send by Ricky Gutierrez. Hassell slides in with a winning run, and the Nationals snap their 6-game losing streak on the walk-off single for C.J. Abrams.
So the Nats pitching in this 2-1 walk-off win over the Athletics on Wednesday evening was very good, and the pitching needed to be very good because the Nats offense in this game was not good. The Nats scored just 2 runs, total just 4 hits, worked no walks, went 1 for 2 with runners in scoring position. The 4 hits were a home run, a double, and 2 singles. The Nats struggled against Athletic starting pitcher Jeffrey Springs. He allowed 1 run in 6 innings with 5 strikeouts versus no walks, but the Nats did win. C.J. Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 1 batter, went 1 for 4 with a walk-off RBI single. Did commit a throwing error, but Abrams in the Nats 1-run ninth, a walk-off, 1 out, opposite field RBI single to left field on a 1-2 pitch for a 2-1 Nats win. And scoring on the play was Robert Hassell III. Now, Hassell right now is hitting, and I want to get to that. But what did you make of the send by Nats third base coach Ricky Gutierrez? A rather aggressive send. It worked out, but there is certainly another world in which that play does not work out in the Nats' favor.
So I think as most people out there know, the press box at Nats Park is high above the upper deck, right behind home plate. It provides the perfect vantage point for that kind of play. You can see it all at once, see what time the fielder has the ball, where the runner is, what the coach is doing at third base. And I can promise you there wasn't a single person in the press box who thought that was a good idea to send him. That was the most violent wave motion I've ever seen from Ricky Gutierrez. I don't think Hassell got a particularly good jump on the play. I am pretty much convinced that Tyler Soderstrom had the ball in his glove before Hassell even reached third base. I thought he was going to be out by a mile, but you know what? The throw was up the line. Hassell slid in. They won the game, and it all worked out in the end. If he had been out at the plate with James Wood on deck, oh my God, I can't even imagine what the reaction to that would have been. I'm not sure the process, the thinking behind it all was great, but they got the job done. Let me also point out what happened prior to that. After Hassell leads off with the double, Jacob Young comes up And they're just trying to get him to move Hassell to third base. Get a bunt down, right? He's ahead of the count 3-0. Next thing you know, it's 3-2. And now on the 3-2 count, the reliever does the spin move back to second. He's not going to try to pick him off, but the reason you do that is to see if you can get the hitter to commit to what he's going to do. And Jacob Young squared around and gave it away that he was going to bunt again on the 3-2 pitch. And then what happened on the actual 3-2 pitch? He bunted it foul. Terrible at bat from Jacob Young in that situation. Thankfully, it didn't cost them in the end. It very easily could have cost them.
And Jacob Young's a good bunter. Was surprised to see that. Now, Bob Henley is the Nats' major league field coordinator and their revamped coaching staff off the firing of Davey Martinez 1 month ago. Bob Senley Henley, he is not the third base coach, but I wonder if the influence of Bob Henley perhaps seeped into Ricky Gutierrez in that moment on Wednesday evening. I guess we'll never know for sure, but it certainly felt that way. But yeah, Robert Hassell III, he's hitting. It's a small sample size, I get it. But since being recalled from AAA Rochester on August 1st, he's 5 for 12 with a homer, 3 doubles, a single, and a walk. He in this game as the Nats starting right fielder and number 8 batter, 1 for 3 with a double. He in that 1-run ninth had a leadoff double to right on a ball on which Athletics right fielder Colby Thomas failed in an attempt at a diving catch. He did not, talking about Hassell, hit that well in his first stint at the major league level, but here, again, small sample size, so far so good.
Yeah, he's hit the ball well. Even I think one of the outs that he made in this game was a line drive to deep left center. That's his good swing when he's going well. He was in the lineup against a lefty as well. So good stuff so far. I'd like to see more of him, whether that means Jacob Young sitting or Galen Lyle sitting. I would like to see more of Robert Hassell to find out what he can do in this second go-around. And as we've been discussing for a while, there's only so many at-bats to give to these outfielders. And Dylan Cruz is getting closer and closer. He played 7 innings, got 4 at-bats, got 3 hits on Wednesday for Rochester. He's going to be back there on Thursday. Reading between the lines, I don't think we're going to see him this weekend in San Francisco. I think he still needs to play 9 innings probably this weekend, and maybe that means we see him in Kansas City next week. But in the meantime, here's an opportunity for the other young outfielders to make their case. So I'd like to see as much of Hassell as I could at this point, because once Cruz comes back, there's a decision to be made. You know, who's going to be sent down, number one, and then who's going to get all the at-bats once all these guys are up here at the same time.
Tim Shover's here to tell you about Babbel.
Ildemar, un bate altísimo. La bola se va. Atrás, el dinero, atrás. Se fue la fruta. Joey Gallo. Joey Gallo.
If you want to know what Luciano and Gustavo are saying on the broadcast on calls such as this one, then check out Babbel. And here's their special offer for Nats Chat listeners. 60% off subscriptions at babbel.com/natschat. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/natschat. That's spelled BABBEL.com/natschat. babbel.com/natschat. Rules and restrictions may apply.
If you work as a manufacturing facilities engineer, installing a new piece of equipment can be as complex as the machinery itself. From prep work to alignment and testing, it's your team's job to put it all together. That's why it's good to have Grainger on your side. With industrial-grade products and next-day delivery, Grainger helps ensure you have everything you need close at hand through every step of the installation. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Springs over the head into the wide, and the pitch swung on, hit in the air to deep left field, toward the line. This one way back to the warning track and the wall. It is gone. Goodbye. A game-tying home run for Riley Adams. Just clears the wall on the flower bed and sneaks out of there down into section 106. Bang! Zoom goes Riley Adams with his 7th home run of the year to break up the perfect game of Jeffrey Springs. It's the Nationals 1 and the A's 1.
I tell you what, the Nats from the catcher position have been getting some offense. Drew Millis has been doing some good stuff, and Riley Adams, he on Wednesday evening as the Nats starting catcher, number 7 batter, homered. He went 1 for 3 with a solo homer. Adams in the Nats 1-run 6, a leadoff full count homer to left field to tie the game at 1, despite having been down in the count at 1.02. Your colleague at MASNsports.com, Bobby Blanco, had intel on this the other day regarding Keibert Ruiz. It doesn't seem to be going particularly well for him right now. And, we say that with all sort of compassion here. Like, we want the guy to be well as he's back on the 7-day concussion injured list. It's starting to feel like he may be done for the season. I mean, I know we still got 2 months to go here, but we know how it can be with these concussions. If, in fact, he has suffered a second concussion and the second one came so soon after the first, you do wonder if he's done for the year and if this is what we have for the Nats at catcher moving forward, this timeshare between Riley Adams and Drew Millis.
So one thing I can share that I've learned over the last, week or week and a half, because I know we had this question previously, he did not officially suffer a second concussion. It's a re-aggravation of the initial one, for whatever that's worth, if that makes a difference to people out there. I guess that's better than suffering a literal second concussion. But the point is, he's still suffering the effects of that and was hit twice in the head in a short amount of time. He's around. He says he feels good for the most part. But as he told Bobby in that interview, he still has trouble sleeping sometimes. There are still issues there. And there's a real concern that even though he's doing some baseball activities, what happens the next time he takes a ball off the mask again, or a collision at the plate, or whatever else you might subject yourself to as a catcher. I haven't dealt with a lot of these kind of situations in baseball. I just know from following football and hockey and other sports that it's very often tough to tell how long these things are going to take. And very often it's not like you see it coming and they're just all of a sudden given the clear from a doctor, and the next thing you know, they're back. So I don't really know what to suspect here as far as how much longer it's going to be. Would I be shocked if he missed the rest of the year? No, I wouldn't. He clearly understands that he needs to take care of himself. He wants to come back, of course. The team would like to have him back for a variety of reasons. And it's really just going to boil down to what he can tolerate, what symptoms he still has, and ultimately what a doctor says about it. And you're right. They've been getting better offensive production from Adams and Millis. As we've talked about so much with Adams, he doesn't hit a lot, but when he does, they're impactful. It's homers and doubles. He doesn't hit a lot of singles. So, you at least like that the production has been something. His throwing has been a whole lot better, of course. I did look up this stat earlier in the day. I was wondering if there might be anything to this or not. And there is something. And I don't say this as if to suggest that Keibert's injury is the number one reason for the Nats pitching staff struggles. But it's kind of telling. Before he suffered the very first concussion on June 22nd, the Nats pitching staff had a 4.99 ERA. Not good, but 4.99 and a 1.38 whip. Well, since then, the staff ERA has gone up to 6.39 with a 1.61 whip. Again, I'm not saying that's entirely on who the catcher is, but I think at times we get caught up in Ruiz's offensive struggles, his pitch framing, his throwing, those kinds of things, and maybe don't appreciate that he's probably a better game caller than the other two guys. And maybe that's based on experience more than anything. There's probably a little bit of something to that in terms of the pitching staff struggles, in addition to a lot of other reasons that's been the case.
I would say this too with the Keibert Ruiz concussion scenario, and I am not a neurologist. My dad is. I'm not. But we do know this about concussions. Once you suffer one, you're more apt to suffer another one, and then you're more apt to suffer one after that. And we've seen that. And so you get these athletes, usually NFL players, who have like 5, 6, 7, what they call documented concussions, because for so many football players, there are undocumented concussions that got ignored back in the day. And so, that's another worry, I think, with the Ruiz, if he has suffered this, I guess you'd say now, lasting concussion, like you said, it was aggravated. I don't know how you tell the difference, by the way. Was it 2 concussions? Is it one that is still with us? Like, that to me seems awfully arbitrary, but okay. But is he more susceptible now to further head injury because he's dealt with something so serious here this season? So we hope that he gets well soon. Absolutely. Good win for the Nats on Wednesday evening. Game 3 for the Nats against the A's at Nationals Park Thursday afternoon at 12:05. Mitchell Parker will be the Nats starting pitcher.
Before we go out, I want to thank everyone who came out to Walters before the game on Wednesday. We had a really nice crowd of fans there, several of them in their Nats Chat t-shirts. Tim Shover set the whole thing up. Thank you to everyone who came out. I was glad to get there for at least a few minutes and chat with some of those fans, answer some of their many questions about the state of the team. They all had very nice things to say and talked about no matter how the team has done, how much they enjoy listening to us every morning. As you and I have said many times, how grateful we are for the continued loyalty of our listenership and how glad we are to still do this every day, win or lose, and know that there is a loyal and consistent audience out there.
Absolutely. Without them, there is no us. So we thank you guys very much. And we thank Walters for its great sponsorship of this podcast since year number 1 back in 2021. And Mark mentioned Nats Chat podcast t-shirts. You can get one of your own by going to our website, natschatpodcast.com. Hit us up on X at Nats_chat. You can find us on Blue Sky at Nats Chat Podcast. You can email us natschatpodcast@gmail.com. All Nationals radio highlights on Nats Chat are courtesy of 106.7 The Fan. For Mark, I'm Al Galdi. We thank you for listening. We'll talk to you next time on the Nats Chat Podcast. The Nats AAA affiliate, the Rochester Red Wings, they have one of the hottest offenses in the International League. For more on that now, we send you to this report from the voice of the Red Wings, Josh Whetzel.
Infield playing him to pull to the right by a couple of steps. The delivery rammed the other way to deep left field. Rodin's going back, looking up. This is out of here. Schnell goes the other way for a solo shot on an 0-2 pitch, and the Red Wings have taken a 3-2 lead. Home run number 8 for Schnell. All right, time for a Rochester Red Wings update, and most of the highlights for the Wings lately have come from offensive performers for the Wings. In fact, in the second half of the season, Rochester has been one of the top 3 or 4 scoring teams in the International League, and they've homered more often than all but one team in the league in the second half of the year. In fact, recently, the Red Wings had a streak of 15 straight games with at least one homer. They had a 6-game series in Charlotte that just wrapped up, in which the Red Wings hit 17 homers in that one series alone. Some of the current Wings on this road trip who have performed well include Andres Chaparro, the slugging DH and first baseman, 10 for 30 on the trip with 4 doubles and 3 home runs. Additionally, Dylan Cruz, of course, in a rehab assignment, 8 for 20 on the trip with a double and a homer. He's had multiple hits now in 3 consecutive games, although he has not yet played a full game in the field. Christian Franklin was one of the trade deadline acquisitions coming over from the Cubs in the Michael Soroka trade. Franklin's gone 4 for 13 so far, and true to form has walked 4 times. He right now has walked 67 times this season, which is the second most walks in the International League. He also ranks in the top 10 in the league in both runs scored and on base percentage. Trey Lipscomb has been hitting well in this current road trip for the Red Wings, racking up 14 hits, including 4 doubles and a pair of home runs. Yo-Yo Morales just had a long streak of reaching base, and he had reached base safely 25 consecutive games by either a hit or a walk. That streak did end on Wednesday night in a Red Wings defeat in Norfolk, Virginia. Andrew Pinckney has not been getting a ton of hits lately, but the outfielder has been hitting a lot of home runs. 4 homers now in the season for Pinckney, who after hitting 8 home runs last year has a total of 17 home runs already this season. Nick Schnell had a phenomenal month of July. The former Rays first-round pick who signed a minor league deal with the Nationals this past offseason hit 11 home runs in the month of July for the Red Wings, becoming just the 3rd Red Wing in the last 20 years plus to have 11 home runs in one calendar month. In the month of July, he tied for first in the IL in homers, was second in RBIs, second in slugging percentage, and second in OPS, while leading the league in base hits for the month of July. So certainly a big month for the left-hand hitting outfielder, Nick Schnell. I'm Josh Whetzel with this Rochester Red Wings update. Breaking ball lifted to deep right field. This has a chance to tie it. Celestino's going back, and that's gone. Pinckney homers into the back of the home bullpen the other way in right. We are deadlocked at 4 on the Red Wings' 3rd solo home run of the ball game. Andrew Pinckney goes deep.
Warning, the following ZipRecruiter radio spot you are about to hear is going to be filled with F-words.
When you're hiring, we at ZipRecruiter know you can feel frustrated, forlorn even. Like your efforts are futile, and you can spend a fortune trying to find fabulous people, only to get flooded with candidates who are just fine. Fortunately, ZipRecruiter figured out how to fix all that. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/zip. With ZipRecruiter, you can forget your frustrations because we find the right people for your roles fast, which is our absolute favorite F word. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day.
Fantastic.
So, whether you need to hire 4, 40, or 400 people, get ready to meet first-rate talent. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/zip to try ZipRecruiter for free. Don't forget, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip. Finally, that's ZipRecruiter.com/zip.